Have you ever noticed how unbearably noisy the world has become? News, information, endless arguments spreading across every corner of social media. It feels as if you are standing in the middle of a storm that never ends. 2,000 years ago, there was a man who felt the very same way, but he was not an ordinary man. He was Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruler of almost the entire known world, commander of one of the most powerful armies in human history. And yet, in the stillness of the night, he picked up a pen and wrote. He did not write for the public. He did not write to deliver grand speeches. He wrote for himself, to remind himself to stay calm and steady, to hold on to his humanity, to reflect and converse with the deepest part of his soul. Those writings later became known as meditations. The miracle is this: if those reminders could help an emperor endure wars, betrayal, and profound loss, then today they can still help us remain clear and awake in a world of noise and chaos. Because the essence of Stoic philosophy is simple. We cannot control the world. We cannot control other people. We cannot even be certain of tomorrow. But we can control our minds. We can control our choices. We can control how we face each moment. That is why Meditations remains timeless, not because it is ancient, but because it transcends time. Think of the weight Marcus Aurelius carried. Every decision he made could change the course of history. Every mistake could cost thousands of lives. And yet, again and again, he reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words, even today, still breathe new life into us. Because in truth, modern life drowns us in forces beyond our control: the economy, politics, the storms of information online. Even the people we love most sometimes act in ways that confuse or wound us. And so day after day we cling and struggle to control it all, spiraling into worry, wearing ourselves down in arguments that change nothing. But Marcus reminds us, none of that truly belongs to us. What belongs to us is smaller, but infinitely more powerful: our response. When the storm comes, it can tear down everything in its path. But there is one thing it cannot sweep away: your freedom to choose how you face the moment. Imagine carrying this mindset into everyday life. Someone mocks or belittles you? That is their voice. How you respond? That is your power. Something goes wrong, not as you planned. That is life. Seeing it as a lesson, as wisdom gained through failure. That is your power. Your plans collapse? That is fate. To adapt and rise again. That is your power. The world shrinks down into two circles: what you cannot control and what you can. Wisdom, Marcus teaches, is knowing the line between the two. This is the gift of Stoicism. It does not promise comfort. It does not promise success. It promises clarity. Clarity so that no matter how chaotic the world becomes, you remain steady like a rock, calm within the current. And this is not just philosophy. It is the way of living as the one creature on this planet capable of consciousness. If even an emperor needed these reminders to survive his storms, how much more do we, in an age of endless noise and distraction, need them today? So tonight, as you hear these words, imagine Marcus Aurelius not as a cold statue of history, but as a companion, a human being who faced storms like ours and left behind precious reminders to help us weather our own. Those words across thousands of years remain whole and alive. There is a truth Marcus Aurelius repeated again and again: the world is impermanent. Everything changes day by day, and most of these changes are beyond our control. He wrote, "Do not waste your time arguing about what a good man should be Be one. At first, it looks simple. But inside this line is an entire way of life. Instead of wasting energy on endless arguments, judgments, and comparisons, focus on the one thing you truly command, your own actions. In meditations, Marcus often reminded himself that human beings are drawn toward two traps: the hunger for praise and the fear of blame, shame, or loss. Both are chains. They steal our inner freedom. They make us act not from wisdom, but from the gaze of others. He warned, if you seek fame, you place your happiness in the hands of others. If you seek possessions, you place your life in the hands of fortune. But if you turn inward, you discover a kingdom that cannot be taken from you. This is the essence of Stoicism, not coldness, not indifference, but freedom. A freedom born from knowing what belongs to you and what belongs to the world. Look at your own life. How many times have your emotions been hijacked by a single comment online? How many nights have you lost sleep, worrying about what others think? How many times have you felt despair because things didn't go according to plan? Marcus faced trials far greater than ours. He lost people he loved. He was betrayed by those closest to him. He ruled an empire while surrounded by war and sickness. And yet, instead of drowning in fear, he chose to write reminders. He told himself, I cannot control what happens, but I can control my mind. I can control how I respond. That is not weakness, that is strength. For true power is not ruling over millions. True power is ruling over yourself. Imagine carrying this mindset today. Bad news arrives. You choose to meet it with calm. Someone insults you. You choose not to let it poison your day. Plans collapse. You choose to adapt and begin again. This is the inner freedom Marcus spoke of. A freedom so rare that even an emperor had to practice it daily, and it is the same freedom each of us longs for in a noisy world. Because if your mind is pulled in every direction by forces you cannot control, exhaustion will follow. But if you anchor it, like a ship dropping anchor in the middle of a storm, you will find peace. Marcus called this living in accordance with nature. It does not mean surrendering to fate. It means recognizing that life will always contain what you do not want. And when you stop fighting what cannot be changed, you free your energy to change what truly lies within your grasp. Perhaps this is why meditation still feels timeless. In every page, we hear not just the voice of a philosopher, but the voice of a human being, a man who worried, who suffered, who was wounded, yet found a way to stand firm. And because of that, every time we read his words, we feel less alone. We feel comforted, strengthened, and grateful. We realize that 2,000 years ago, another soul struggled like we do, and left behind a light to guide us through our storms. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "No one can make you suffer unless you allow it." At first, the words may sound extreme, but if you think carefully, this is the essence of freedom, because if you believe your happiness depends entirely on other people, you have placed your fate in their hands. But if you believe that only you decide your own mind, then you have found a power that no one can ever touch. In meditations, Marcus repeated one truth again and again. We cannot control the outside world, but we can always control how we respond to it. Imagine standing in the middle of a snowstorm. You cannot command the wind to stop blowing. You cannot order the snow to stop falling. But you can put on a warmer coat. You can build a fire. You can find shelter. The strength is not in changing the storm, but in how you choose to face it. Marcus called this mastery of the self. A quiet kind of strength, but stronger than any army. Because armies can be defeated. Walls can crumble. But the one who keeps a steady mind cannot be conquered. During his reign, Marcus faced endless trials, border wars, plagues that spread across the empire, factions fighting for power within his own court. One mistake could bury the empire, and yet he chose calm, he chose steadiness, he refused to let temporary emotions guide permanent decisions. He reminded himself, and he reminds us. When you are angry, remember this: your anger is only a ripple. But words spoken in anger can turn that ripple into a destructive wave. How many times in our lives have we lost control only to regret it later? A harsh word thrown in anger, a reckless act in the middle of a fight, a decision made without clarity, one that could never be undone. Each of these leaves behind a heavier cost than the emotion that started it. Marcus advised, instead of reacting immediately, pause. That pause is where real strength lives. In that silence, you can choose to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. This is the mental muscle that the Stoics trained every day. Just as the body takes time to grow stronger, self-control requires practice. You cannot expect to be steady tomorrow if today you still let your emotions rule every small action. Marcus once wrote, "Our minds take the color of the thoughts we plant in them each day. If you plant anger, you will harvest storms. If you plant envy, you will harvest pain. But if you plant calm, you will harvest peace." What is astonishing is that Marcus did not write these words from an ivory tower. He wrote them from the battlefield. He was not a cloistered scholar, but an emperor making life and death decisions every day. And yet, instead of being consumed by power and pressure, he used them as chances to train his mind and strengthen his soul. And this is why Meditations is more than just a philosophy book. It is a handbook of light for the soul. A reminder that even in the harshest conditions, human beings always hold the freedom to choose how they live, how they feel, and how they face the world. So ask yourself, how much of your anxiety comes from things you cannot control? And how much of your peace comes from moments when you finally let go, when you accept, when you step back, when you allow your mind to stay clear? Marcus teaches us a truth that sounds simple but is profound. The real victor is not the one who conquers the world. The real victor is the one who conquers himself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not expect the universe to bend to your will. Expect yourself to live in harmony with the universe." That line is the essence of Stoic philosophy. Because so much of our suffering in life comes from one thing: we want everything to go our way. We want others to love us. We want our plans to unfold perfectly. We want the future to be safe and certain. But life is not like that. The human heart changes. Every plan, no matter how careful, eventually collapses. And tomorrow, no one can truly know it. If we keep resisting what cannot be changed, we only invite despair. But when we release our demands, we discover a new kind of freedom. Marcus called this living in accordance with nature. It is not resignation, it is not apathy. It is the understanding that nature has its own order. The sun rises and sets. Winter turns to spring. Humans are born and humans pass away. Everything belongs to a cycle. When we accept that cycle, we stop wasting our strength fighting the inevitable. Instead, we turn our energy toward what we can do, the right action, here and now. Marcus lived this way. He did not flee from responsibility, even when it weighed heavier on him than on anyone else. He did not chase praise, even as an emperor admired by millions. Each day, he quietly reminded himself, live in harmony with reason, with virtue, with the true nature of being human. And that is his message to us, that life is not measured by how many desires we fulfill, but by how our mind responds when life refuses to go our way. Think of a blade of grass facing a violent storm. The storm may roar, sweep through and tear away what lies in its path. But if the roots of the grass are deep enough, no storm can uproot it. It remains steady, calm, unbroken. That is the image Marcus Aurelius wanted us to carry. We do not need to be emperors to live this way. We only need to remember happiness is not found in controlling the world, but in mastering ourselves. It is not in what others think of us, but in whether we live true to our values. That is why Meditations has endured through time. It is not a list of cold commands. It is the voice of a man who was weary, who suffered loss, who felt uncertain, yet chose to stand firm. And when we read or listen to those words, we are reminded that we too can stand firm. That even in today's chaos, we can live as free human beings, free from fear, from endless craving, from chains to what lies beyond our control. Because in the end, as Marcus wrote, the life of each of us is shaped by the thoughts we choose. If we plant calm, we will harvest peace. If we plant clarity, we will harvest wisdom. And if we plant love, we will harvest a life of happiness. And those are the timeless reflections of Marcus Aurelius, not only a Roman emperor and a philosopher, but also a human being who once worried, suffered, and searched for a way to stand firm in the storms of life. I hope that through these simple reminders, you too can find a source of strength to remain calm in the face of hardship, clear-minded amid life's turbulence, and free in every choice you make. If you feel this video has brought you value, please share it with someone who may also need a moment of peace on their journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next audiobook here on Peace is Here. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. May you always find clarity, resilience, and serenity in the flow of life.